beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. Woo! I do have to be careful. I do have my backpack, and I got my star pants. So this is one of my favorite little outfits because it's hate less, love more, baby. So yes, we need to love more, and that's what Starlight has been doing, is to bringing love out in the world even more and more every day, and make people feel like sunshine every step of the way. So I love you so much. This is Starlight, and thank you to all of you who have been here loving and supporting Starlight. And if anyone would like, you can send love donations on my YouTube through my Cash App, and I will have that information here. Ping, there it is. And thank you for all of you that are new to my YouTube channel, new subscribers. And thank you, yes, thank you for leaving comments, please. Thank you for all of you who subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. Watch my videos or share my videos, and don't forget the notification, but all of the above, but especially reaching out, being brave, putting your voice out. That's what I want to hear, is put your voice out, because we all need to hear from you. And thank you for the few people that just recently left Starlight a comment of one thing or another. So thank you. And now, before I start this video, now today it's about this is crazy. I would have never believed this, a long time ago. But you know what? As you grow, as you go, you grow, and you learn, that most of the shit we've been told has been a lie. So if you're having a hard time making it in the world, more than likely that's the problem, is that you've been lied to. And everything that you believe is so vitally important. If you believe in the wrong shit, it's going to take you nowhere, and that is what you got to watch out for. And that's why I'm making this video, is because we've been lied to. And so this is about how all the stuff that you went through in your past was no accident. It was no accident. Like with me, mine, most people, their hard time starts after they get out of their mom or something, being with, when they get out of the womb, but my hard time started in my mother's womb, so with that being said, is even that there was no accident. Even though, my parents didn't want me. I mean, mom, dad, why didn't you want me? Look at how I turned out, I have to laugh at things now, because I understand this matrix, this stimulation is that, I needed to go through that, because you know what? When I had my 2 kids, I didn't go get an abortion. You know why? Because I had to learn from my own mom and dad how it made me feel, and of course I didn't know this until I got much younger, later on in my life, about that's what was going on, and so I needed it, though, because now I can help other people out with the same thing. So it was a lesson. It was to teach me things, what not to do. And so this video here, I'm gonna start going, I hope, the way I want it. So yeah, now I'm just gonna talk to you about right now. Right now, where do you find yourself? And I'll tell you what, years ago, before I found discovered my mentor, which is Infinite Waters, Rouse Smart, I'll tell you what, I was going through some shit. I'll tell you what, I was always talking, but sometimes it was with the wrong people. I was, opening up to people, and, but I didn't know how to go about it, as far as my life goes and my history goes and my past goes. So, I was trying to get help. I knew, I needed help. And so, my whole life I knew things were screwed up, even when I was living with my family, even when I was, You know, I question, I don't think you are my mom and dad. I didn't believe my parents were even my parents. I questioned stuff. I was trying to find proof. There's no way these people could be my parents. How is this possible? I questioned all kinds of stuff, being a teenager growing up, being on the streets, at 16, and did life get better? After I left my parents' house thinking that I did the right thing, after that I thought I was being cursed. So what do you think? Do you think that things got easier for Starlight? Absolutely not. Holy shit. But you know what? It's something is all those things, believe me, I was learning a lot of shit, just like you go back to, and I'm sorry, sometimes this is really painful to go back, in places that we don't want to go back to. And I know what that's like, because I was always trying to get help, and I had family members, they wanted to help me out. They really did. They knew I was in pain, and there was no doubt about it. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I'm just bringing this up because that was an old version of myself that was hurting inside, and it was crying out for help everywhere. Help! Help! But you know what? God was there the whole time, but I wasn't aware of it. I thought God kind of forsaken me because I didn't go to church anymore. I didn't really know what to think, and the reason why I stopped going to church because I was in the wrong church, and I was in the cult church. So I was really lost and confused. And so God knew, God had a plan. I didn't know what God's plan was, so, and that's why you got to really be careful of how you treat other people. And this goes for people that go to church, that claim that they know God, Christians or believers or even non-believers, is that you really got to be careful how you treat other people, because God's got a plan. You might not see the plan, but God's got a plan. When I left the church, it was like a mark on me, because where I came from, nobody wanted nothing to do with me, and there's Christians, people that say they love God, I'll tell you what, when you got a label on you like you're a backslidden Christian, I have to say it like that, because I'll tell you what, there's some funky stuff going on in some churches out there. And when you get that label, that, or even being called all these, like a lost person that doesn't know God, so a lot of times people treat you like you got the plague. They don't want to get near you, because the people in the church has controlled them and programmed, is to stay away from those people, because they're going to trip you up and mess you up. And so it's challenging in this world, is when you feel lost and you don't know what to do, and you're struggling to survive every day, to make it through another day. I know what it's like to, wake up and, want to sleep your life away. I know what it's like to just not have that energy to go out, and even to get out in nature or do anything, So, but all those things are very needed, to go through those times and sit with your emotions and, really think about your life and what's going on. And so I would have never thought all the things that happened to me from the time that I was in my mother's womb, to now. I would have never thought, like, everything happens for reasons. There's no accidents or coincidences, I was like, yeah, like, and I'm talking because I know there's people out there that will watch my YouTube channel that have gone through hell their whole life like I did, so that's why God put me, like, that's why I had to go through that family, so I can come through the other side shining like a starlight I am, to help other people that are going through the same shit or similar things that I went through when I was younger. So there's no accident. And so it is amazing how my life is now, because I was guided. God let me go on my merry old way after the cult church, because God didn't want me in a cult church. I needed to experience that so I can help other people who have gone into an occult church, and so then I can relate to them and they can relate to me. So see, that wasn't no accident, and there's no coincidences out here, you know. I got so-called married to a man at a cult church, you know. So all those things, everything that I went through from my mother's womb all the way to now was no accident, and it's painful to say this because I know there was a time I couldn't understand, and I was asking the wrong question most of my life, is why did all these things happen? Why did this happen? And then, like I said, when I left my parents' house just to survive, it's either, okay, I was already trying to end my life at 10 years old in my house, being brought up, not knowing, I couldn't deal with it anymore. I couldn't deal, that it was just, I'll tell you what, it was getting worse. It wasn't getting better, I might have never made it to, get out of school, I might have ended my life before I even turned 18 if I stayed. So, the only thing I knew was to leave, my one brother, he left before me. I don't know what age he was when he left, but he had somewhere to go. He had friends that he could count on way back then. I mean, not right off, but, he did eventually have somewhere to go and live and be taken care of. But, those things, I needed to go through those things. And I thought I thought I was cursed. I thought, what am I not supposed to leave, an abusive home, But you know what? I always said my whole life I had no regrets leaving. Because you know what? I'm alive today because I did. And boy, these bugs are out here. It's buggy out here. But so there's many times that you're going to go through things and you're not going to understand why you're going through, what you've gone through as a kid or even, a teenager or even in relationships. Hang on, Starlight's actually got to get some water. All right, I'm back. Is that, you might have been confused of all the stuff that you went through, but I'll tell you what, after I discovered my mentor, Ralph Smart, is, wow, I'll tell you what, now it's all making sense, because I knew it was an illusion, but I didn't understand like I do today, and we've been lied to and all this stuff. So now what I'm realizing, now Starlight is gonna go from here now, where I am today, shining like a star like I am, because we are the real stars. It's not the Hollywood stars. Those are to trip you up. You don't want to, go that way, because that's the way of the world. So because people who are working on themselves to be the change that they want to see or become their greatest version of themselves, you are the real true stars. So anyway, with that being said, I'm looking at these trails because this is bike trails and walk-in trails, and I've never been here before, so there's times Starlight kind of loses her way around here a little bit. So anyway, now from shining like a starlight I am, now I'm going to go backtrack. I wanted to start from birth, for the pain, of being in my mother's womb. And now I'm going to go from, now shining like the star that I am, and going back in time and showing you how, teaching you how I needed to go through what I went through to be able to make it through these times where I am today. So now we're going to backtrack. And so before I found my mentor I was trying to end my life. But, I wanted to get off this planet. I couldn't survive anymore here on planet Earth, And so backtrack is, but you know what? All the things, ooh, look at this, it's so beautiful. I'm going to zoom this in. Such a beautiful spot to see this. There's a turtle. So, yeah, so this is so beautiful out here, even though it's kind of dark. I wouldn't want to go in that water though. So, whoopsie. So, yeah, so, you know, everything that I've experienced in my life gave me the tools that I need today, because it got me, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Of course, there's a different saying is what doesn't kill you makes you stranger. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And, so I am not just a survivor anymore. I am thriving out here. I am as happy as can be when I wake up. I couldn't say that before I met discovered my mentor on YouTube, and, because I was seeing a therapist way back then. I went through spiritual awakenings. So, you know what? God put me through a lot of stuff in my life. I, chose those things, and I could always blame my parents. It's your fault, and I was, hurt by my family most of my life, not understanding, what I went through. So, but everything that I've went through, going to the past, relationship issues, church problems, even problems with society, where I never fit in, never fit in anywhere, even when I went to church, I was like, what the heck? I go to church and I still felt like an outcast, just like when I was at home, So all the different experiences that I've gone through, like even work, going through a job, and it really taught me to who I am and what I was going to put up with, what I was going to say. If you don't like the life you're living, it's your choice to change that. You got to make up your mind. If you're not happy at the job that you have, or the money that you make at the job that you have, you are the one that's got to make the change. You got to, and don't listen to other people unless they're telling you, hey, you're at the wrong job, because you're not happy. See, these are all going to guide us to where we're really meant to be in the first place. I want to just go snoop over here. I've never gone here, but I love doing this. Starlight loves to look down and check things out. Isn't this a beautiful view? So yeah, so think about all the experiences that you've gone through and the hardship and, even money problems and going from paycheck to paycheck and, relationships, being a parent, dealing with churches, and seeing the fakeness and the falseness, with people that claim that they're Christians or believers, dealing with occult churches or, so many things. I'm just trying to think of other things like the music that you listen to, the places that you go to, everything, I'm going in the past, when you get sick and tired, you actually take action. That's when you're going to take action. You're going to be like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I don't like what's going on. And we can't expect other people to make the changes in our life, but we have to. We're the ones that have to make that change. We're the ones that have to step it up. We're the ones that have to realize that the people that we have in our life, if they're tripping you up and pulling you back, you gotta let go, because later on, you're gonna gain so much wisdom, in your, for your future self. And that's why, everything that I've gone through in my past, and now like relationships, what? Now I don't put up with that shit anymore that I did put up with. Now I have a voice. I use my voice now. I'm not afraid to speak and say what's on my mind. I'm not afraid of, being who I am. I'm not afraid to be honest with people and tell them things that they need to hear and not just what they want to hear. And it's because of those things that I went through in my past by not saying anything, has, now, because, I've been watching tons of videos from my mentor, and I'll tell you what, is it easy? No, it's not easy. No, it's not freaking easy. A lot of people, that's the thing, is that they're looking for an easy way out. Guess what? There is no easy way out, and that's what trips most people up. They're like, you know what? I don't want to go this way. It looks too hard. It looks like it's going to take me too freaking long to actually do the work. But I'll tell you what, that's exactly the path that you need to take, because you know what? You're all this stuff is already laid out for you on that path that you think is going to be really super hard. You think you're not going to be able to do it. That's the path that you need to take. It's when we think that we can take the easy way. I had so many choices in my reality and my past, when I was homeless many times. I could have took the easy way, thinking it was an easy way, by going to the government and going, reaching out for a handout, being controlled by the government, telling me what I need, sit up, Starlight, lay down, bark like a dog, No, you know what? I'm not going to go to the government, because I'm here serving God. I'm doing I'm where I am supposed to be at the time and place where I am meant to be, so there's no accidents or coincidence in this reality. So, I could have had the easy way out being homeless before. Even now, if I wanted to, I could go back to New York, and I already got, there was a place that I could have gone, I could have had a trailer to myself. It would have been a way out in the middle of nowhere, out in the country roads. But you know what? When I looked at that, I'm like, shit, no, we ain't going that way. That's like a disaster already waiting to happen. And other family members, hey, you could stay with us. You could get a job out here. We'll give you a place to stay. And you know what? There goes all my freedoms. Everything getting flushed away, I go by their rules and all this stuff, and no, I'm a free bird. I'm a free bird. Have you heard that song? I'm free. I can't remember how that song goes, but, even so many things I've learned to be grateful because going through all the things that I've learned on this journey, even learning about like relationship stuff, in the past, being, not letting people abuse me anymore. I went through, those are tests. Everything is testing you. And, I'll tell you what, it takes me all the way back down even, about being a good parent, because by having parents that were not good parents, maybe they didn't have the education or the know-how, maybe they weren't taught right. Maybe they, they were, tossed to and fro, as a child and didn't know which, didn't have any education, is, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to be a good mom. I didn't have to copy what my parents did. I can change it. We can always make changes. We don't have to follow what our parents did. That's what it teaches us. Even in relationships, I actually overheard something last night and I was like, wow, I was in my car. I couldn't see anything because my curtains were already up. But man, I'll tell you what, something was going on in the car next to me. And I'll tell you what, it didn't sound good, There's people that are in relationships with people that have spirits in them. This guy was freaking out. I mean, I thought he was going to beat the hell out of somebody, I was like, holy shit, I am glad I am free from all that stuff, You have a choice to be in those situations, or you have a choice to get the blink out. A lot of times we think that we're stuck in those things, but we're not. We're not stuck. But it teaches you lessons, and it's painful. It says, hey, I'm not letting people treat me like that anymore. And like I said about being you could have been with a family that wasn't a good parents, and it teaches you how, gets you prepared to be a better parent. Even when now we're really time traveling, in the past is, even as far as when I started out as a kid, you know, I learned to take a stand-up bath. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't think anything of it really. I loved the bathtub, but there was many times I remember taking a stand-up bath. And you're probably wondering, Starlight, what is a stand-up bath? Well, that's when you fill the sink up with water, and you have a washcloth, and this is not when you do your hair, but this is when you actually clean your whole body, head to toe, except for your hair. And instead of jumping in the shower, it was to save on water. You know what? Way back then, it was a good thing I went through that as a kid, because now I'm actually doing that. I go in many bathrooms taking a stand-up bath, in public bathrooms somewhere at a park somewhere. What else did I learn when I was a kid? I learned how to, throw anything together and make something out of it, as far as dinner goes. My mom has a gift for doing that, and it got me prepared for these times now, even times when things, growing up, going through life, when you don't have quite all the food that you want to make a meal. So everything that you've gone through, your story is going to be different than mine as far as what you went through, what you learned. A lot of times we have the tendency, like I did, thinking, woe is me. Oh, poor Starlight. She came from a abusive family. They didn't have money. They were on welfare. She had funny clothes. Her hair was a mess. But you know what? It got me to really appreciate every little tiny thing in my life right now. It got me to appreciate, I have not bought like any underwear in such a long time, but you know what? God has been taking care of all my needs. Like I have the sneakers that I have on now is not the sneakers, but I have a pair of sneakers in my car that God blessed me with. It makes me so freaking grateful. Like I got a pair of sandals. They were just like brand new, because God is blessing me on this journey, because, I am going through this. All my needs are being taken care of. So everything that you went through as a child, growing up, as a teenager, going in relationships, is getting you ready and prepared. You're getting your sword is getting sharpened for these times now. So even though it's hard when you're going through it and you don't understand, you might felt bad for yourself and wanted other people to feel bad for you. But when you realize, wow, I needed to go through all those things, because now in my life and my future, I know how to take care of myself, because I had it hard and I had it rough. So shit, it's amazing how great I feel now. Now we're in the present moment right here. But I am so, don't mind me, I Starlight got a little warm out here, but I am amazed with what's going on in my life right now. God has taken care of all my needs, but there's rules to all of this. I got to do the work. A lot of people, what they expect, I don't have to do anything. I just have like a magic lantern, and all I got to do is rub the lantern, and make a wish, and all of my everything is going to be on, in my reality. There's people that get mad because things don't go the way they things are not going to go the way you expect it, because that's not how God is. God has ways of really surprising you at times that you didn't think you were going to get anything, but you're doing the work, and then bam, out of the blue, somebody just comes along. You didn't even have to ask for any helps. God just put it on somebody's heart to give you something, and you needed it, but they didn't know about it. They didn't know that you needed that help. I just got my minutes paid just because I listened to the voice of God, and I listened to what God, the universe, is telling me. And all it had to do is play, imagine this, Starlight, try something new, do something different. And when I did, I'm amazed. Picket ball or whatever ball, and I've never played that. And I met a man that was out at a park playing that game, and I said, wow, I would love to learn how to play that. And it's amazing. I studied the whole situation when I met the man, like a dream. The color of his shirt, what he was doing, where we were, what happened when I met him, because something was like, God's telling me something here with this man. What is it about this man? So I only wanted to be around him to learn picket ball, because God wants me to do different things, not to do the same thing all the time over and over again. Be physically active, hike or do sports or do something. And it's amazing that I told the guy right after we got done, he was showing me the rules of picket ball or whatever, and I told him, and he didn't hear me all the way because we were walking through the fenced-in area where people were playing. I said, God has been telling me to do something like this, to play pickleball. And you might be listening to me thinking, Starlight, you're out there playing? I thought you're out there serving God. It's about working on myself and learning how to listen from God, from the universe. And I put videos out here about, are you searching for guidance? That was my first video, and I dedicated that for the universe and God, because that's exactly how I do things, the way I do it. But I was like getting downloads of information by studying the situation, where I realized that when I play that pickleball game, God was going to reward me. Now I'm thinking God's going to reward me, in a couple days. I've been getting messages from the archangels, letting me know, Starlight, and my minutes were up that day. My minutes were up yesterday, and so I needed to go out and get money so I can have minutes on my phone. And the archangels was letting me know, Starlight, you keep on meditating, work on your chakras, work on your goals, and all your needs are going to be met, Starlight. So that's all I had to do. All I had to do is, do what when God says to do something different, do something different. When God says, like Simon says, when I do all those things, God, just like this man that taught me how to play pickleball, is he goes, hey, I got something in my car. I was hoping, that you were going to be here, and I want to give you something. And so we go to his car, and he gives me a gift card. And so my minutes got paid. I didn't have to go out and spend hours, asking for help. God surprised me. It's like, hey, Sterling, I got a surprise for you. See, and it's, it's obeying God. It's obeying the universe. And, all my needs have been taken care of, And so all those things that happened in my past is helping me to get through the now, right here in my life right now. It's given me the tools to, and now I just need to learn how to use those tools to get through the things that I go through right now. So, no accidents or coincidences. There's a lot how this goes, and I can't put it all in this video. It's too much. But there's no accidents or coincidence. What you went through, you needed to go through. Those are lessons to teach you, and we're always being tested. So don't give up on yourself, and don't feel bad about yourself about what happened, and say those things. I can help other people like I am on my YouTube channel. This is how I'm becoming a life coach, is because I went through hell. I went, like training. It's a training. It's a university. It's a training course. It's a hard course, because this matrix is not, it's not an illusion, really. It's like being stuck in a video game, and we go through all these tests and trials and tribulations and all this stuff or whatever to strengthen us, to give us the wisdom and the know-how to get through these times right now. So just like a video game, you go through all the other stages to be able to finish the other games out. So anyway, I love you. So remember, there's no accidents or coincidence. Just ask yourself, what am I learning right now? What is the universe trying to teach me right now, so you can learn. And you really need to watch other videos that I make about with the universe, and you can always check on my playlist, or even the archangels, the dream studies. Those are other ways that God can communicate to you, so then you know what you're supposed to work on, so then God can reward you because you're obeying and you're listening to God instead of other people. I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace. Thank you for watching. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.